The discovery of gold in Victoria in the early 1850s precipitated a quite unanticipated wave of humanity pouring into the colony. As a result, Victoria's population went from 70,000 in 1850 to 500,000 by 1860. By the mid-1850s, the township of Newstead had begun to emerge. The settlement became a convenient Loddon River crossing place for travellers passing through the area to places further west, like Talbot or Maryborough, or even distant Adelaide, and centres to the south like Dalsett and Ballarat. As the township developed, it serviced miners and farmers in the district, with its shops, stores, hotels and blacksmiths, and with a butcher famous even in Melbourne. Initially, travellers crossing the Loddon at Newstead were obliged to ford the river, but this was difficult due to a steep riverbank at that location. To encourage passing trade, bullock drivers' home at Newstead erected a simple log bridge across the Loddon in 1855. A replacement bridge was paid for by Newstead Hotel, but the collection of tolls for this private venture subsequently proved to be unlawful. The township was also graced by an ill-fated government punt across the Loddon above Newstead in 1856, but this proved to be something of a white elephant, was swept away by floods in 1857, and the service was abandoned. Miners were very much a floating population with an inclination to respond immediately to favourable news, or even the rumour of a new goldfield, and rush to new diggings, often at very short notice, in the hope of striking it rich. There was much hardship. Life for most miners and small farmers was very harsh. Water was often scarce, particularly in the summer, when the Loddon River tended to become a chain of waterholes. Food could also be expensive. Much accommodation available was of the most basic kind, and people lived in tents or bark huts for years on end. Schools were also conducted in tents to begin with, for those children lucky enough to be able to attend class. Such medical treatment as was available was limited in scope, and any serious injury or illness could quickly result in death. Complicating the difficult living conditions, alcoholism was a serious problem. Hotels did a roaring trade, and such edifices competed with less salubrious inns, or as they were politely called, refreshment tents. Less congenial establishments were the official grog shanties, which seemingly existed for another purpose. Are there no police to look after the grog shops? They flourish here like mushrooms, and it is melancholy that nearly all the money got for wages here goes for drink in these accursed places. Unfortunately, theft was endemic in colonial society. Robbery under arms was a hazard of the road, and individual travellers were particularly vulnerable. Violent crime was prevalent, and it is said that many acts of violence, even murder, were unreported. On occasion, the diggers were known to administer their own form of justice to claim jumpers, without the involvement of the police or the courts. Nevertheless, the police gradually became more effective. They were assisted by the emergence of newspapers throughout the more settled areas. News of serious crime could then be circulated widely, and the assistance of the community sought to bring alleged criminals to justice. The trial judge was sometimes Justice Redmond Barry, perhaps best remembered as the judge who sentenced Ned Kelly to death.